And now to this, healthcare. Last night, the CBO says that 23 million fewer Americans would have health insurance under the House's Obamacare replacement plan. But our next guest says millions of Americans would see tax relief. Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform, joins us now. Grover, I guess the score was more or less what everyone sort of thought it was, and it brings back to the debate here. The headlines all focus on the 23 million more Americans who won't have health care, not the fact that Obamacare has been an unmitigated disaster.
Well, it's worse than that. Their numbers are nonsense. They might have pointed out that they claimed that there would be 24 million Americans in the exchanges now, and it's 10. So when you're off by those kind of numbers, when in predicting Obamacare as it's supposed to be growing, off by a factor of 100%, to then tell people that you know what's going to happen as we undo Obamacare is nonsense. They say that Obamacare is going to have 18 million people in the exchanges next year if nothing happened. It's been going down from 12 to 10. They claim it's going to be 18, and so from ridiculous numbers, they say it will fall. They also count the fact that more than 10 million Americans are forced to buy Obamacare because of mandates, and they wouldn't do it without the mandate. So if you take down the Berlin Wall, you announce that people have been denied East German citizenship. I mean, it's the way they put it out is limited in their capacity. They're wrong about people, who gets what kind of health insurance. They're silent on the doubling of health care premiums as a result of Obamacare for people getting individual insurance. I mean, Obama said it was going to go down by $2,500. It went up instead by roughly the same amount.
And Grover, to your point, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, just the latest insurer, they're pulling out of Obamacare. The company says that it's lost more than $100 million in the last year on this. So obviously it points to the question of sustainability.
Oh, absolutely. What we do get with the House proposal, and the Senate's working on coming up with their version of it, is roughly $1 trillion reduction in taxes, a little more than $1 trillion in spending restraint, and with health savings accounts and efforts to take people who have pre-existing conditions and get them insurance, but take them out of the insurance pool so that you and I aren't paying higher premiums because somebody else has an existing $50,000 a year problem. You take resources out of existing spending and make sure that people can afford health insurance even if they have pre-existing conditions. So all of the concerns that people have raised are actually met in these reforms.
But still, Grover, last night, no less than 4 Republicans in the Senate voiced some anxiety, if you will, with the CBO score in the House version of the House bill.
Oh, if I was running for office, I would be very unhappy that an agency of government with a history of being wrong repeatedly and always in the same direction, not sometimes one way, sometimes the other, once again put out a flawed report with all the numbers there to look at. Their claim is as the number of people in Obamacare's exchanges collapses, they're predicting it'll be a big increase next year. And then, if you reform it, that imaginary big increase will disappear. My goodness. And if you don't force people to buy Obamacare, which they don't want, and they only do it because there's a law saying we'll fine you if you do it, when you let them leave, they announce, well, they've been denied insurance. No, they didn't want what the government had because Obamacare, as you know, is a lousy deal. It costs too much and it does too little for you.
Absolutely. By the way, the big day for the markets and the economy, and the central issue here has always been jobs, and of course this major shift in the job market because of automation. I want to look at some of your tweets on this topic. The first one, quote, 1990, 70% of Americans worked in agriculture, mining, construction, and manufacturing. 2017, 14% of Americans now hold such jobs. What percentage of that is trade? Which percentage of that is automation, Grover?
Well, what you see, a lot of it is improved productivity. You have more people, fewer people producing more. It is exactly in manufacturing what happened over a longer period of time with agriculture. We produce much more food today with 1 or 2% of the population in agriculture compared to turn of the century when you had 70 and going in the past. 80 and 90% of the country on the farm. So the good news is we produce more food with fewer people, more manufacturing goods with fewer people, which allows you to have more people doing new and interesting things.
So then let me jump in, because the question is, will technology kill our jobs? I mean, this is your tweet. You're saying barcode scanning now in all stores since 1990, the number of cashiers increased from 2 million to 3.2 million. So even with that technology that initially people said could be a job killer, we saw growth. So are we over concerned about all of this?
I'm not, but the worrywarts are the people who can't imagine a dynamic economy, who don't understand that new jobs. Who predicted Uber or Lyft or Airbnb? There's 700,000 people on Uber, 150,000 on Lyft. These are jobs that 10 years ago not only didn't exist, they weren't imagined. All of the Americans who are now working in fracking and the tremendous increase in oil and natural gas that we have. We were told in 1980, limits to growth. Remember peak oil? How many times have we hit peak oil?
Yeah, quite every decade.
People who bet against the market, who bet against American ingenuity, have always been wrong. They're wrong again.
You mentioned Uber and Lyft, and everyone knows it's no secret that they ultimately going to go to driverless cars. So, in one of your tweets, you say, will robots steal our jobs? Since 1990, the number of ATMs have risen from 100,000 to 425,000, and the number of bank tellers rose from 400,000 to 500,000. But what about, replacing Rosie the Riveter with Rosie from the Jetsons?
Well, somebody has to make Rosie from the Jetson. Somebody has to maintain Rosie. I think every time we've moved forward on new technology, Mrs. Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt's wife, went around saying in 1949, we've done enough on technology and innovation. Let's just get everybody employed now. We'd all be working with shovels. I mean, the Luddites are always wrong. Now, in a closed society, maybe in North Korea, every time you have a new piece of equipment, you put somebody out of work. But in a free and open and dynamic economy, when somebody does something that frees up two people to do something else, they can do something else. And there's a wonderful, very interesting poll that only Mark Penn was telling me about, Democratic pollster. 6% of Americans, when asked, would you like your children to work in manufacturing? 6% say yes. So we keep talking about, and if you go back 30, 40, 50 years, everyone talked about how much fun it was to be on the farm, except many people, given a choice, choose not to live on a farm. Grover, they want to live somewhere else or do something else.
For bringing those things up, because we hear about it all the time, and a lot of people are anxious and nervous about it. Grover Norquist, thank you very much, buddy.